On January 4th, 2012, an image appeared on the internet. It contained only white text on a black background. The message said its author was searching for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, it had created a test. Somewhere inside the image was another message. Finding it led to a second image, then a secret online community, then a telephone number in Texas. The voice on the line directed solvers to a website with a countdown. When the timer reached 0, the screen changed. It displayed coordinates in the United States, France, Poland, South Korea, and Australia. People who traveled to those locations found physical posters attached to streetlights. Each displayed the same symbol, a black cicada and a QR code. The puzzle had escaped the internet. Nobody knew who had placed the posters, how the operation had been coordinated across continents, or what waited at the end. But a small number of people reached it. They were invited into a private space, given a project, and introduced to an organization that refused to reveal its name. The public puzzle was not the mystery. It was the recruitment process. The original file became known as final.jpg. To most people, it was simply an invitation followed by the number 3301. There was no logo belonging to a known company, no prize money, no registration page, and no explanation of what a successful candidate would receive. It appeared on 4chan, an image board where posts were temporary, authors were usually anonymous, and elaborate hoaxes were common. Almost everything about the setting encouraged people to ignore it. The only reason the message survived was that a few users downloaded the image and examined the file itself. But a digital image can contain more than it displays. Information may be stored in its metadata, added after the visible file has ended, or concealed through tiny changes in the image data itself. This practice is called steganography, hiding the existence of a message rather than merely scrambling its meaning. Early solvers examined the file and found text appended to it. It referred to the Roman Emperor Claudius Caesar, followed by a string of unreadable characters. The reference was an instruction, shifting every character by 4 positions, because Claudius was the 4th Roman emperor, transformed the string into a web address. That address opened another image. It appeared to mock the solver for choosing the obvious path, but hidden in its wording were the words out and guess. Outguess was the name of a steganography program. When the original image was processed through it, an entirely different message emerged. It contained a book cipher and a link to an obscure Reddit page filled with encoded text. The puzzle was only days old, but its structure was already clear. Every answer was also an instruction for how to find the next answer, and every layer tested a different skill. The Reddit page introduced Mayan numerals, medieval Welsh literature, and a sequence marked with the words verify 7A350 90F. That sequence was not another cipher. It was the identifier of a public cryptographic key. Public key cryptography uses a matched pair of keys. One may be distributed openly, the other remains secret. A message signed with the private key can be checked using the public one. The signature did not reveal a legal name or a physical location. It established something more limited but extremely useful. The author of a new message controlled the same secret key used before. From that point forward, messages from 3301 could be checked against a digital signature. Solvers did not know who controlled the key, but they could establish whether 2 messages came from the same source. This mattered immediately. As attention grew, false clues and imitations began to appear. The signature became the only reliable thread through a maze that anyone could alter. The anonymous creators were not just testing whether people could decode information. They were testing whether they could authenticate it. The encoded text on Reddit concealed a telephone number. When solvers called, a recorded voice congratulated them and described the next task. 3 prime numbers were associated with the original image. One was 3301. The other 2 had to be found. Multiplying them would produce the address of the next website. The answer had been visible from the beginning. The original image measured 509 pixels by 503 pixels. Both dimensions were prime numbers. Multiplying 509 by 503 by 3,301 produced 845,145,127. At the website bearing that number, solvers found the image of a cicada and a countdown. Hidden inside the image was a signed message telling them to wait until a precise time on January 9th. This changed the nature of the challenge. Until then, every clue could be followed as quickly as a person was able to solve it. Now the organizers were controlling the schedule. Thousands of people could reach the same page. Nobody could move before the clock allowed it. At 1700 Coordinated Universal Time, the countdown ended. The website revealed strings of numbers. They were geographic coordinates. Some pointed to American cities, others to Warsaw, Paris, Seoul, and a location near Sydney. An anonymous post on an image board had become a synchronized international search. Solvers formed groups and contacted strangers living near the coordinates. People traveled to the locations with cameras, uncertain whether they would find a person, an object, or nothing at all. At several sites, they found white posters attached to streetlights. Each carried a cicada and a QR code. This could no longer be explained as a single file improvised over a weekend. Someone had designed the files, maintained the servers, recorded the telephone message, and coordinated physical material across multiple countries before the first image appeared. The organizers may have had members in those places, recruited local helpers, or used another method that left no public record. The infrastructure existed before the audience knew there was a puzzle. Scanning the posters opened new images. Those images contained more hidden text, more signed messages, and new book ciphers. One path referenced Agrippa, an experimental work by author William Gibson designed around the idea of a text that would disappear after being read. Decoding its coordinates produced an address ending in .onion. It could be reached only through Tor, an anonymity network designed to conceal the location of both users and services. But Cicada had introduced a new rule. Speed mattered. A signed message warned that too much had already been shared publicly. The organization wanted the best, not those simply following instructions posted by somebody else. Only the first people to reach the final service could continue. This created a contradiction at the center of the event. The internet had solved the puzzle collectively. Participants shared code, screenshots, discoveries, and theories in real time. But the final stage rewarded individuals who separated themselves from the crowd. That made the challenge more than a measurement of intelligence. It also tested judgment. A person could move faster by accepting solutions from strangers, but then risk following a false clue. They could publish their own discovery and help the group, but allow other people to reach the limited endpoint first. Cooperation advanced the puzzle while secrecy advanced the individual. Cicada had created a recruitment process in which the candidates were also competing to decide what information could be trusted and when it should be shared. When the available places were filled, the hidden service closed. Those who arrived too late saw only that the journey had ended. Those who arrived in time were asked for private contact information. Then the public trail went silent. For most observers, Cicada 3301 ended without an answer. For the winners, another phase was beginning. One of the few documented participants to speak publicly was Marcus Wanner. He was 15 years old when he completed the 2012 challenge. Wanner later explained that the puzzle's technical precision had convinced him its creators were highly competent. There was none of the careless infrastructure or accidental information leakage common in amateur internet mysteries. After reaching the private stage, he and a small group of other successful solvers were questioned about their beliefs. The subjects included privacy, freedom of information, and censorship. Those whose answers matched the group's principles were admitted to an anonymous forum. According to the accounts later shared by participants, Cicada described itself less like a company than an international group united by common ideals. It supported personal privacy, opposed censorship, and believed information should remain free. The new recruits were not simply congratulated, they were given work. One project was described as a dead man's switch for whistleblowers, software intended to release protected information automatically if its owner became unable to do so. Imagine a source holding evidence of corruption. The information is encrypted and distributed, but it remains locked while the source checks in at regular intervals. If those check-ins stop because the source has been arrested, silenced, or killed, the system releases the key. It is a technically difficult idea with serious consequences. A mistake could expose a person too early, release false information, or allow an attacker to trigger the system. The concept matched Cicada's stated beliefs. It also required exactly the abilities the public puzzle had tested: cryptography, software development, anonymity, and trust between people who did not know one another's identities. But the private organization did not become clearer with access. The winners communicated through pseudonyms. The people directing them did not reveal who they were. Progress was difficult, and participation declined. Eventually, the forum disappeared. There was no public launch, no confirmed finished product, and no final explanation. The winners had passed one of the most elaborate recruitment tests ever placed online. They still did not know who had recruited them. Exactly 1 year after the original challenge, another authenticated puzzle appeared. It followed the same philosophy, but expanded the range of techniques. Solvers encountered cryptographic texts, Tor services, audio files, and eventually a bootable Linux system created for the puzzle. The system contained programs, hidden data, and an original piece of music titled the Instar Emergence. An instar is a developmental stage in the life of an insect. The symbolism was deliberate. In Cicada's language, solving was a process of transformation, moving inward, discarding an earlier form, and emerging as something new. The second challenge again selected a small number of participants. Public accounts indicate that some received invitations followed by requests for patience. Then communication stopped. In January 2014, a third authenticated trail began. This was the most complex. It used custom runes, mathematical relationships, hidden services, audio, and layers of encryption that did not resolve into a simple final message. By then, Cicada had become famous enough that every new image produced immediate suspicion. Copycats could reproduce the black background, the Cicada symbol, and the cryptic language. They could not reproduce the signature. The same public key created in January 2012 authenticated the later trail. Across changing websites and disappearing services, it functioned as the organization's only continuous identity. Instead, the trail produced a book. Its title was Liber Primus. The first book. The pages of Liber Primus are written in a runic alphabet connected to a system known as Gematria Primus. Each rune represents a sound and is associated with a prime number. Some pages have been decrypted. Their language is philosophical and instructional. They discuss knowledge, truth, independence, and the transformation of the self. One solved section warns the reader to believe nothing merely because it appears in the book. Even the name of the organization is built around this mathematical language. 3,301 is a prime number. The periodic cicada is famous for life cycles lasting a prime number of years. It spends most of its existence hidden underground, then emerges, changes form, and becomes visible for a brief interval. The metaphor appears repeatedly in the puzzles: concealment, transformation, and emergence. Other pages remain unreadable. This distinction is important. Cicada 3301 was not a puzzle that nobody solved. People completed earlier public rounds. Some reached private recruitment. What remains unfinished is the final book and the identity behind it. For more than a decade, independent solvers have tested classical ciphers, mathematical sequences, prime number systems, transpositions, literary references, and computer-assisted searches against its pages. Some methods work once and then fail. Some passages reveal readable language, while the next returns to apparent noise. And because anyone can claim a solution, every breakthrough must be demonstrated rather than announced. This has created a second generation of the puzzle. The original race lasted days or weeks. The modern effort has lasted years. Solvers preserve dead websites, compare copies of the original files, write search tools, and test proposed keys against the runic pages. Progress itself is difficult to define. A method may produce fragments that resemble language without proving that the decryption is correct. Different archives may count pages differently or disagree on when a partial result becomes a solution. For that reason, the honest description is not a dramatic percentage. Large portions of the book remain unresolved. Liber Primus is not simply difficult. It is designed to punish assumptions. That may explain the final verified message associated with the original cryptographic identity. In April 2017, a signed statement appeared. It contained only a warning. Beware false paths. Always verify PGP signature from 7A35090F. After that, the authenticated voice of Cicada 3301 fell silent. The scale of the operation invited theories immediately. One possibility was an intelligence agency. The challenges tested code-breaking, operational security, research, and the ability to work anonymously under pressure. Governments have used public puzzles to recruit technical talent, but there is no evidence connecting Cicada to a specific agency. And the anti-censorship, privacy-focused philosophy described by winners would be an unusual message for conventional government recruitment. A private security company is another possibility. The organizers possess the competence and resources to identify exceptional candidates. Yet no company claimed the campaign, offered employment, or connected the puzzle to a commercial product. Perhaps it was an alternate reality game. The hidden messages, physical locations, and collaborative audience all resemble one. But an ARG normally reveals what it is promoting. Cicada produced no film, game, or brand at the end of the trail. The simplest explanation may be a small, international collective shaped by cypherpunk ideas. People who believed strong encryption could protect privacy and resist censorship. That interpretation fits the topics discussed with winners and the software they were asked to build. It also explains why anonymity was not merely part of the aesthetic. It was the point. But even this theory leaves difficult questions. How many people were involved? How were the posters placed across continents? Why did the private projects collapse? Why create new public puzzles after the first group of recruits had already been found? And why release a book so difficult that the recruitment process appears to have remained unfinished? No answer has enough evidence to become an identity. Cicada 3301 is often described as the internet's greatest puzzle, but its achievement was not complexity alone. It created trust without revealing a face. The PGP signature proved continuity without proving identity. The physical posters proved coordination without revealing an organization. The winners proved that the recruitment was real without being able to explain who stood behind it. Every solved layer made the mystery more credible and less visible. Perhaps the group failed. Its private projects faded, its form disappeared, and its final book remains incomplete. Perhaps the public trail had already served its purpose. The people it wanted were identified, tested, and contacted long before the rest of the internet understood what it was watching. Or perhaps Liber Primus is still the entrance, waiting for someone to find the correct path. The last verified instruction did not say that Cicada was gone. It said to be careful what you believed.